We are live here. Excited to be here. Emmanuel, thank you for being here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear you.
We
Yes,
are
Paul Pierce is one of the best small forwards
we
of all
we
time, and
wow, we're live here on the story of episode 1. We're talking about Paul Pierce.
We are here to discuss a new guest, new face. You guys might have seen them before. You might have not. If you don't know, you won't know. So we're gonna let you know who this is here. We got Emmanuel Pierce with us for the third season, exclusive content here on the story of Manny. How you doing? I should say, Black Manny. How you doing?
I am well. I am well. Feeling a little rushed, but I am well.
Okay, is that rush from crack cocaine? Is that rush from caffeine with a
No, it's kind of like when someone tries to hurry up and kick you out of the house because they don't want to hear what you have to say. Kind of like that.
We're starting things off here a little rowdy here on the story off. As always, my name is Manny Lagunas. We have Michael Bowie with us. This is the story of. If you are here to get the real down story of people's lives, of stories you can relate to, man, you are in the right spot. So we're gonna go ahead right into it. Is that right, Michael?
That is
Is
right,
that-
and I can't wait to learn about Emmanuel Pierce's story, the things that he has on his mind, the things that he's been through, and I think because I know him, people that know the channel have seen him and I with Film Addict, cheap plug, but here we are on Story of, where we get to actually delve into learning about him. And so, Manny, we kind of want to start off this whole season, this first episode, kind of talking about you, like where you came from, where you're from, how was your childhood, where does your story kind of begin.
So my story begins at Sinai Grace Hospital in Detroit. Born and raised in Detroit, August 29th, 1994. That's when my story begins, the birth of Emmanuel Pierce. Um, I come from a single mother household. I predominantly grew up on the west side of Detroit, West Warren and Asbury Park. Um, uh, we moved around a lot, but that's kind of where we settled for a while. Um, Elementary school, I went to. Well, see, here's the thing. I'll say about school. I am famous for going to a school for a complete set of time. So I went to a school for 2 years, went to another school. So I started out at elementary, got kicked out of that school for doing stupid stuff.
Whoa,
In
no, we're not going to just skip over that. We're not going to just skip over that. Got kicked out for doing stupid stuff. Elaborate. What stupid stuff? You're already young and
I
getting in
don't.
trouble here?
I mean, I was kind of unruly for when I first started out as a kid, as a younger kid in that 5, 6, 7 age range. I wasn't really like a good child. So yeah, I got kicked out. I think I cussed a teacher out or something. I don't know what I did, but I did something that got me expelled.
He knows what he did. He knows what he did.
As a kindergartner or first grader,
I don't
got me
think they're
expelled.
expelling kids for cussing out teachers. Well, maybe back in the day they were.
Back in my day, they are. Not anymore. So yeah, got kicked out of that school. I went to another school that I'm blanking on. Got kicked out of that one. So then I ended up at Man Elementary. Um, my second and third grade years, my second, third, and fourth grade years, I was at Man. Then I went to Ludington Madden Middle School for fifth and sixth. Then I went to Detroit Premier Academy for seventh and eighth. High school, my ninth and 10th grade years, I went to Cass Tech. And then my 11th and 12th grade year, I went to John F. Kennedy in Taylor, which is now defunct. No more. So
Well, that is a quick history from your school years and everything
mhm.
else. But tell me about your childhood. I mean, obviously you didn't remember the first time being kicked out, but we also didn't cover the second time hearing what you got kicked out for there. But it seems like you had a rough childhood. You had a single parent home, you said. And so
Mhm.
is that, I don't come from a single parent home. I don't know about you, Manny Lagunas, but do you think that played a role with inside of, having bad behavior, being kicked out for whatever behavior that you may or may not remember or forget?
Yeah, it did play a role, mainly because I didn't have a father at home to kind of guide me and shake me and snap me out of that. I went to counseling I had really bad anger issues too as a kid. So I went to counseling for my anger issues, for some of those feelings that I had about not having a father around. And I did that at a young age. Like I said, maybe five or six when I can remember first going to counseling. So, and that was mandated, obviously, because I had been kicked out of 2 or 3 schools by that. So, yeah, I would definitely say me early on. Now, I would say, just to briefly touch on my father, or my dad. I'll say that my dad. So as far as I knew when I was younger, he was in prison, and he's been in prison all of my life. And so not having somebody there that built up that anger, not only in not having a father near me, but having a father who I felt made poor decisions that separated us. So, looking back on it now, I have the context of that as a kid, understanding what I was going through as a child, with all that anger and stuff. And so my outlet for that as a kid was to play sports. So I started off playing soccer, and I had this gym teacher that I remember. His name is Mr. Miller. And he always used to say, "You'd be a good player if you weren't so angry." This is when I was still an angry kid. If you weren't so angry and you were a little more disciplined. So I started out playing soccer, playing basketball. I played basketball in middle school too. And then when I got to high school, I started playing football once my mom allowed me to, because she was scared. My mom was always overprotective of me as a child. She was scared I was going to get hurt or, whatever. So she was very overprotective of me as a kid. So I think that kind of played a role too in the way that I am a little bit, because I'm a little guarded. But my mom was a bit overprotective as a child. And then just other things that I could tell you about my childhood. I was pretty active. I had one friend that he come over all the time and we play video games, and we hang out. But I was pretty active, hanging out with friends on a neighborhood block, riding bikes over to friends' house to play basketball and different things like that. I was just an active kid.
So I have, several questions, because I think that we're taking in a lot. Looking at the fact you said that your dad was in prison now, and he's been there pretty much your whole life. Is he there for a crime where he'll never ever get out?
Yes.
So he's going to die in prison.
Yes, currently, unless something changes legally in his case, or maybe he gets a new trial, or there's some issue that comes up. Yes.
And so growing up, did you? You say single parent household. Did you ever talk to him?
Yeah. So, and I got a kind of story about that too. But yeah. So I started off I remember going on visits with him, and I have pictures of me being on visits with him my mom has them. I don't have them anymore, but pictures of me being on visits with him as a young baby and a young child, and some of the stuff that I can remember maybe being like 5, 6, 7, 8 in that range is going to see him and playing checkers with him. We would play checkers, we would play cards like Goldfish, ID Clear World, just playing games with him on visits. So yeah, I saw him up until the age, I want to say, of maybe 10 or 11. And the reason that I stopped seeing him was because him and my mom would get into it all the time on the visits. They wouldn't be cordial with one another for my sake. It's just like they would be constantly arguing there. And so they just kind of, my mom just kind of stopped taking me up there to see him. And so that was a huge gap. So I probably saw him like every year of my life up until I was like maybe like I want to say like 11 or 12, and I didn't see him again, like going to visit him until I was 24.
So as a young child, you're raised by your mom, but you did
Mm-hmm.
go and see your dad inside of prison. So I would assume at some point maybe you would say, I'm in school, I'm doing, or well, in your case, got kicked out of
Yeah.
school twice. But you would update him, So was he there even when you would go to visit him? And I don't know if you did phone calls to where he still was in some way raising you to say, hey, you need to do this, you do better.
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
he
yeah.
that inspiring person? So you really weren't in a single parent household, but you were in that consensus because you still had a mother and a father that were raising you. And if so, did that make it difficult with inside of your early years growing up?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of right. Like, we would talk on the phone, and he would ask me how I'm doing, or check on me to see what's going on. Or he would talk to my mom on the side just to see how I was doing. Um, and give me advice and letters and stuff like that. But like for the most part, that hands-on guidance wasn't there, and that's something that I felt like at a younger age I needed, and that's why I lashed out and I got in as much trouble as I did. Every kid is different; it's not the same. But I feel like for me, it would have been a little different had he been actually physically there. So, yeah, well, we talked on the phone. Even when I stopped visiting him, he would call. Um, you know, I don't remember the frequency of which we talked on the phone, but we talked on the phone. And we talk on the phone to this day. So, yeah.
A bigger question that I have is, you know, I'm trying to think of the best wording for it. How how has him being inside of prison? How had that impacted you to where you lashed out? I mean, you said that you it did have an impact, but
Mhm.
exactly how did it play into an effect? What things did you do at that young age? Whether even not in school, maybe back talking to adults, maybe you're a pyro. I don't know. Like, what kinds of things played into the account of the effect of having your dad inside of prison?
I mean, like I said, I had an anger issue, a very big anger issue. I don't think it's necessarily like people in my family I would talk back to. Like I respected people in my family. It would just be other people, you know, that I wouldn't respect, or teachers and stuff like that I would give a hard time to or wouldn't listen. Um, you know, not that I was like energetic, just disorderly, just like disrespectful to other adults, or not listening, or just being angry and getting into fights, or just pushing other kids down on the swing sets, like stuff like that. Just
You were a
lashing
bully.
out in an angry way. Yeah. So the quick story I want
It looks like we've
to find
lost you.
out.
Okay, you're back. You're sorry, it
Yeah.
froze for a second, but we're back with you.
Quick story about my dad being in prison for the rest of his life. So I didn't know, like, younger, how long he was going to be in prison. Like, let's say, uh, I found out when I was 7, right?
Well,
So I
that
went to.
not to cut you off, but that was actually going to be my other question: is how did you process this at that young age?
So I actually did not find out until I was 7 years old. Um, that he was going to be in prison for the rest of his life. I went to go visit a family member in Cincinnati, and I stayed with them for 2 or 3 weeks. Um, and they were like, this was the first time that I ever heard of Otis. And for those that don't know what Otis is, it's the offender tracking system, offender tracking information system. It's the system in Michigan where you can look up anybody who has been to state prison or has a criminal record. You can look them up in there. And so that the family members while we're there, they looked him up, and they were like, what's your dad's name? So I gave him my dad's name. They looked him up and they go, is this him? And I said, yeah. And so I finally saw, because on there it tells you what their crimes are, what their sentence was, and if they're on probation, it tells you your probation. It gives you pretty much all of their information. So that's how I found out about him being in prison for the rest of his life. And how I processed it, I don't know. I kind of dealt with it the way that I dealt with a lot of things, and that's just stuffing aside. And I think that's what led to all that anger and backlashing. I never really dealt with my problems. I just kind of bottled them up. or dealt with my feelings and emotions.
Do you think that bottling up your emotions? I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here on your timeline, but do you think that bottling up those emotions sort of shaped you as the man you are now?
I've had different interjections in my life that have shown me that that's not a healthy way to deal with things. And so um, it's taught me a lesson in how to deal with life and deal with different things. So yes, in a way, it shaped me, but that's not how I deal with things now.
So I'm looking at the story that you've told me about how rough it was to be inside of a single parent household, your other parent and dad inside of prison, and how that was rough on you. Did you notice it being rough on your mom, and if so, how so? And it looks like you froze again.
Yeah, I got him froze here for a second too. He might come back here in a minute. I
Well,
mean,
we can definitely touch base while we're working on coming back, because the reason why I'm kind of asking this question, I'm looking at it from the aspect is that I've never, like I said, had a parent inside of jail, and so I can only imagine how rough that is on somebody. And so at the end of the day, you can't only look at it, was it rough on the kid, but also was it rough on the parent. And we do have you back, Manuel. I don't know if there's something on your end with internet, but we do have you back. So the question that I was asking is, noticing that it was rough on you, is how was it, did you notice that it was rough on your mom, and if so, how so?
Yeah, I would say so because she didn't have that help to um I don't want to say control me, but help me guide through things as a young man, right? I feel like there's a lot of stuff that a man needs to teach his son about how to be a man. Um, Fathers shape their sons into being a man, and so there's a lot of things that a mother can't give you. You know, they don't know what it's like to be a man, so there's a lot of things that they can't give you. So yeah, I would say it was hard on her too, not having that extra support, having to grind pretty much, you know, for everything, to pay all the bills, make sure food is on the table. um you know, and my mother has a very giving heart. She, you know, besides me, you know, she adopted three other kids too. So, you know, that's another thing. So I have three other siblings that are adopted. So just because I was around, that didn't stop her grinding or try to stop her from helping other people.
So
So
that changes the
uh,
story significantly, because now it's not even just that you are in a single parent household, your dad is inside of prison. You have three other children that aren't your biological brothers and sisters. I know that
mhm.
that sometimes is difficult. Even when they are biological, having an older or a younger brother or sister, there's always conflict. So to have three individuals, and I would assume all of them are younger, or are any of them older than you?
So my mom had foster kids come in when I was in middle school. We had a lot of foster kids come through when I was in middle school, and so she didn't adopt I have an older sister and a younger sister and a younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
So my older sister she adopted when I was a freshman in high school. She was a senior, so she's 4 years older than me. Um, and then my younger siblings, when my mom got them, they were babies. So my younger sister is 14 and my younger brother is 12.
Okay.
are they all from like the? Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Michael.
No. Go ahead with your question. I have one after you.
I was just wanted to see if they were, sort of like from the Detroit area. I mean, you did mention
Mhm.
you moved around a lot, but sometimes that can help. Well, growing up, I mean, obviously the absence of your father is a big deal, but
Right.
you guys aren't like sort of from the same mother. Sometimes you guys can lean on each other, right? As siblings, as people that are around the same age, sort of understand. Even if somebody's older by 4 years or a couple other years, sometimes you guys can rely on each other. So yeah, I wanted to ask if they were from from the Metro Detroit area, and if so, did you look at it that way? Somebody that you can count on, or sort of talk to about your problems, your anger problems, mostly.
So by the time my older sister was adopted, I was kind of like over my anger issues. I was out of that phase of my life. But we had a decent relationship, but we never really had any like deep conversations. I mean, we had our issues like any senior and freshman or teens do in a household, like
Right. Yeah.
But I would say what that did was made me closer with my younger siblings because I wanted to be an example for them. So like,
Okay.
my little sister and my little brother. My little brother is like my shadow. He loves me very, very much. We have a very, very close bond and relationship. And so for me, when my mom adopted siblings, it wasn't that like I had somebody my age that was kind of like understanding me. It was more so, I have to be a role model for my siblings to make sure that they can avoid the pitfalls that I made, especially knowing that it's no man in the household. And it's not to say that I was trying to be the man in the household, but I was trying to help in any way that I could.
So we're running short on time here. We want to close up and wrap up everything, but I do want to have that final ending question, because when I look at it, I've analyzed how rough it was in that single parent home. Dad is inside of prison. From your perspective, your mom's perspective, the thing that you told me is that people, maybe men, maybe children in general, need a father figure inside of their life, and in general, I think that every a father and a mother, they bring certain things to the table. So, everyone needs both of those. So not even just looking at it from your perspective and your mom's perspective, but also these 3 foster kids who also are inside of this single parent home. How did that affect them? Did that, was that something where they also took notice to it, where they acted out, or that it had an impact on them in their life?
Yeah, I would say yeah, but it's different for everybody. Like, well, first, my older sister, she was already pretty much, you know what I'm saying? She was 18 at the time. She was getting ready to graduate high school, go off to college. She went to college. So her situation was a little different, right? She had already basically been through the system. My younger sister, I would say it definitely had a toll on her because, she did the same things that I did. She acted out, just getting into little stuff or doing stuff here and there. So I would say it had the same effect on her. My brother, not so much. I think he's just been shielded from that. He has his own set of issues, just like physically and mentally. So it's just like, it wasn't the same in that way. And now that my mom is married, they have a stepfather that they treat as their father too. So they have another father figure to look at. So their situation is kind of a little different than mine was, especially over that period of time, because they're not even at the age that I am, and they have me as an example and their stepfather. So,
well, it's interesting, especially when you say that they have a different story than you, and that's the whole purpose of this show, is that everyone has a story to tell. We're delving deep into yours, and I think that we've learned quite a lot about your childhood, and I can't wait to delve into the future episodes and kind of learn more and see what direction this is all going. I know that it's a lot to take on with what you've already told us at this young age. So I know you, and I know the people that are watching may not know you. So I know that they're going to be just as shocked about your story, what you've been through, your trials and tribulations, just as much as I have, how far that you've come. This is a show where we definitely want to tell people's story. Everyone has a story to tell, and this is just the beginning of Emmanuel Pierce. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank my co-host Emmanuel Lagunes. Thank my person that's being interviewed, Emmanuel Pierce. Thank you for being on the show. Little jumbled here, but I want to just tell everybody else, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I mean, this show has so much potential, and I think it's going to go far. I already know so many more people that want to be a part of this show.
Just say Filmatic, my bad.
That want to be part of this show and tell their story, as we all have one to tell. So please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It does help the future of this show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and this has been The Story Of.